Welcome back to another episode of TVGP's Critical Misses, Season 19, Episode 5. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me, as always, is Moonbeer.
Howdy.
We're here for our fifth and final movie of our inaugural rom-com season. As Moon reminded me just a minute ago, Season 19, which is wild. That's a lot of seasons, man. So for this episode, we're going to go to, just like when Harry Met Sally, we visited a classic of the genre. We're going to watch 1998's How Stella Got Her Groove Back, which is, I think, as much of a classic as When Harry Met Sally. I think both of them are...
Arguably, yes. I'm going to come out with some fire right now that I'm not sure
All right.
might be a problem or not, but we'll see. If it gets edited out of the episode, you know it's a problem. I don't think this gets the props it deserves because this is a distinctly black film.
Yes. That is also my impression, was when the film came out, there was a lot of people laughing at it. Not only because of the word groove, but I think there was also like laughing and eye rolling of like, ugh, here we go. This sort of movie, right? It's like, what do you mean by this sort of movie?
What?
What are you saying?
It's a distinctly those people kind of comment. Like, hold on, let's rewind and unpack that those people comment that you just made.
What do you mean by that? So yeah,
are you going to use the term urban to describe this movie? Because that's going to be a problem.
That's part of the reason why I wanted to include it in the season. Is number one, not only is it a real classic, but the rest of the season has been white. So might as well put at least some level of different type of movie in here. And we have featured, if you listen to the Critical Misses production meeting, which happens between seasons over at patreon.com/E1M1.
The ones and numbers.
That's for $5 patrons or higher. It's an exclusive episode. You know that we have, I think, 1 or 2 additional rom-com seasons planned, and they're quite a bit more diverse than this one. Because I think...
Yes, a minor potential time break moment here. But we recorded the production meeting for this season before this episode, and this whole season has inspired me to go in and be like, okay, how about this for a romantic comedy theme, this for a romantic comedy theme, this for a romantic comedy theme.
Yeah.
And it's a lot less traditional, we might say.
Right. And that's part of the reason why I'm excited to watch this movie. Is I feel like I haven't seen it. I believe you haven't seen it either, correct?
I've seen it, but I saw it a long time ago when I was probably too young to get the innuendo behind the word groove. Is my guess.
Gotcha.
Which I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, the word groove here is definitely an innuendo.
Sure. It's like a... I get the impression that this is like a... I've absorbed little sort of cultural osmosis for this movie, but it always seemed to me like it was a post-divorce or post kind of long-term relationship kind of sexual empowerment sort of thing of like, I'm gonna go live my life again. I'm gonna, now that I'm free or single or something, some sort of large life change, I'm gonna go do the things I want to do.
We are, when it comes to cast for this movie, we know the one of them already. It's right there on the poster, which is legend Angela Bassett.
Yeah, who's been showing up in a lot of video games lately, which is really great.
Like, is impeccable in everything she does, I feel, including the Rainbow Six franchise. How she seems to be in both Siege and the other one that came out that she was in.
Most recently, she's been in Horizon Forbidden West and was really good in that.
Yeah, that's got a bunch of legends in it, though. Apparently.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So I remember a little bit about this movie, but not a whole lot.
Okay.
What do you said you haven't absorbed a lot, so what are you expecting from this based on the title, the poster, and knowing that Angela Bassett is in it and that the groove is a euphemism?
I mean, with Angela Bassett being in it, I feel like we're gonna get like the performance of a lifetime, which you kind of always get with her in pretty much everything. Um,
Okay.
Other than that, I'm not entirely sure. I feel like the kind of either main male actor or the one that shows up the most is very famous now and maybe wasn't when this came out, but I'm not entirely sure who it is.
So this is one of those movies that has the very cool introducing line on it.
Ah, right.
And it is for the lead male character in this movie.
Okay.
And I guarantee you will know him from other movies that you have enjoyed, and particularly his performances in other movies.
I feel like I want to say it's Taye Diggs.
It is Taye Diggs.
Okay, so
This was his,
introducing Taye Diggs.
yes, this was his very first full feature length for like appearance was in this movie.
Hey, if you want a hot, muscly dude in your movie, you got Taye Diggs, man.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Taye Diggs, the Idris Elba of the 90s.
right. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Um. Other than that, I'm not sure that I know that much because I feel like culturally, when it came out, like we talked about here, sort of at the opening, there was a lot of eye rolling and like, ugh, yeah, here we go, that sort of thing. So I feel like I didn't see that much about this movie other than the eye rolling and other than the kind of derision about this movie existing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember somebody else who's in this movie who was very much one of those people who had a hell of a career and then vanished.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so I'm curious to see how you take that one. Um,
Is this
other than
like the last movie where we have a ton of people that are kind of young and starting in Hollywood at this point that kind of go on to big things?
I think this is a mix. You've got some
Okay.
legends in here because, like, I think Angela Bassett had already proven her acting chops by this point.
Okay.
Um, but you've got people like Taye Diggs coming in, the legend who I just mentioned, who kind of vanished after a while.
Hmm.
But but at this point, Angela Bassett's already been in like Kindergarten Cop as like an extra. She was in Malcolm X in '92.
She was in
Like,
What's Love Got to Do with It? Like, I think that was largely her breakout role, I believe. Oh, she was in Boys
uh-huh,
in the Hood as well. That was huge too.
yes. Like she at this point, I think she's proven her acting chops.
Right.
I think there's a lot of young people in this, a
Hmm.
lot of young people, and you're like, oh, okay, so you're gonna go on to be incredible,
Right.
and
You're gonna be a huge star.
and nobody here seems to realize it, but you're gonna be insanely talented and do a hell of a lot of incredible stuff in the upcoming years.
Mm.
And then, like I said, you got like one or two, like I think Angela Bassett and the legend. I mentioned. I'm hesitating to use the word legend because I know there's some. As always, there is some controversy when it's involving Hollywood and people who have been
Oh,
acting for
sure.
a long time.
Right.
Um, so shockingly enough, not a guy for the first time in a long time.
Okay. There you go.
Um, but it's a lot of young actors, and like I don't even know who the director of this is or who it's written by. So like,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if
Let me
this is
look.
one of those things where this is just someone who came in, knocked out the park, and then like left.
Directed by Kevin Rodney Sullivan. Screenplay by Terry McMillan and Ron Bass.
Okay, I don't know who they are. So okay,
The director directed a lot of stuff. Like Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, he worked on that. He wasn't the director, but he worked on that. Worked on a lot of stuff.
That's the old cutting your chops underneath somebody else kind of thing.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. I cannot wait until you see the setting of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't take place where you might expect it to take place.
Okay. Yeah, the poster for this movie is always Angela Bassett on a beach or something, so I'm curious to see where and how she gets there. Yeah, where in the world is Angela Bassett?
I don't know. I'm excited because it's been a long time since I've seen this, and like I said, I would not have gotten a lot of the illusions when I was younger.
Sure.
So I'm curious to see how it goes.
Yeah. I'm excited to see yet another kind of classic of the genre here. All right. Well, on that note, go ahead.
I have curiosity for you. Are you expecting a Harry Met Sally kind of thing, or are we expecting like fast and loose turnaround, like The Long Shot? What type of romantic comedy are we expecting here? Because I think we've covered the two big ones here, which is the shotgun style and the long-term development. I'm not even going to talk about the last episode's long-term development because it doesn't exist.
We're good. I sort of I think my assumption would be the kind of I'm going to go and I'm going to have like a free-spirited vacation or getaway or move to another country or something. And I'm not going to fall in love. I'm just going to, enjoy the fruits of life. Whoops, I fell in love. And the conflict maybe being, I love you and all, but, I'm just getting out of a insert relationship here. So I can't fall in love. I couldn't possibly. I shan't. And maybe that's the conflict.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's go watch the film.
Yup.
Welcome back. We're back. Watch the movie. Did Stella get her groove back? Is the question here.
I don't think it's a question of if she got her groove back. I think the question is how. How she got her groove back. That's the question at hand.
Right. So let's I guess we should start off with the cast. Just to talk about it here. The totally stacked cast. We talked about Angela Bassett before, killing it in this movie. Just like she kills it in everything, unsurprisingly.
Yep.
Taye Diggs as Winston Shakespeare. One of the best character names of all time. Just really, I like that the movie also addresses that a human is named that, and multiple characters are like, is that his real name? Is that a fake name?
Yep.
Yeah.
You give me two, I give you two, you give me one. It's like, yeah, because my one was real.
That's right. Whoopi Goldberg as the seemingly ad-libbed comedic relief in this movie until she dies. Whoops.
Yep.
And then like 15 other people that you have seen in a bajillion other things. Yeah. But those are kind of the high points here. I like how this movie opens with Stella killing it in the workplace. Like, she is a stockbroker, a single parent, 40 years old, which for reasons becomes important later. And is just like tossing around millions of bucks at work in her 90s office job, just killing it. Yep. And she it's sort of the opposite of what I was suspecting in the first part of this episode. I thought it was going to be like the end of a long-term relationship, but it's the married to work sort of deal where it's like, I'm too busy. I don't really, I haven't met anybody that I really can. I mean, have you met men these days? Come on.
Yep.
And is encouraged by multiple people, including her kid, to maybe take a little bit of a break. And then she, in one of the funniest scenes in this movie, sees the commercial for Jamaica while she's talking to the judge, and has probably one of the best like fantasies about taking a vacation that I have seen.
And like, come on, let's face it as well. Like, this is how we all are as adults in the year 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, do we wish we could take a vacation at the drop of a hat.
I see a beach on TV and I'm like, yeah, man, that'd be great. But I really love her conversation with the judge and her just being like, yeah, that sounds great. And him just being like, oh man, this is going so well. I like meeting an open-minded woman like you. And she's just like, yeah, yep, open to Jamaica, yeah.
Sounds delicious, I believe is one of the
right.
lines.
He's just like, hell yeah, man. What's up? This is going great.
Which I actually also think influences the scene you see with him later in the movie, is where he has probably had that stuck in his head for years.
100%. He's like never met this woman that was way into him one night. He's just like, man, we never met. I don't know what's going on. So she spontaneously calls Whoopi Goldberg's character Delilah Abraham, which is also another. Her name is Stella Payne as well. This movie is full of great character names. And says like, hey man, this is on your answering machine, but like, hey, let's go to Jamaica. Yeah, woo. And then calls back later. It's just like, no. Don't worry about it. I wasn't.
Dude. It's instantly. It's
the next phone call is, hey, don't worry about it. Jamaica's a crazy. Anyways, don't worry about it. And then of course, Delilah is just like, yeah, I didn't listen to the second one. Wink. Anyways, we're going to Jamaica. Yeah. So off they go to Jamaica.
I mean, it's a case of you could definitely afford it. You more than make the money for it, kind of thing.
And also treat yourself a little bit.
Can we talk about the spa day really quick with the sisters? It's
one of the things
weirdly hilarious.
One of the things I like the most about this movie is so many of the characters in this movie. So many of the actors in this movie seem like they are having the time of their life, and they just happen to be shooting a movie. So there are like 4 or 5 people having a spa day and arguing about kids and relationship and marriage.
Because it's the 3 sisters all arguing with each other, and there's the white lady who's with them in the same room.
Who's just like, what's happening?
And they're throwing shade at each other, like while they're all like on the reclining seats with the face masks and everything.
That's right.
So you immediately get like the one sister is having issues with her kid's dad. The other sister is pregnant and entirely dependent on the husband for everything. And then you've got Stella, who is separated from her husband,
right?
Assumedly divorced at this point, and a single mom,
right?
Which is I like that dynamic because it's all 3 sisters in 3 different situations in their lives.
Yep.
Everybody judges Stella. They don't judge each other. They judge Stella.
Well, and they feel the situations that each of the sisters are in feels real too. It's not. None of the relationships here feel like they are wild or huge or impossible or anything. It's just like, yeah, it's like a normal life that these people are living, which I think is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that whole scene is hilarious because they're just smack talking each other, and then someone says something to I think it's the youngest sister, I'm assuming, the ambulance driver. I think that's Vanessa.
I think so, yeah.
She breaks the ice, and then they all start having a laugh, and then the white woman joins in with laughing, and they're all kicking water at each other. She's like, "Why are you laughing? You're not associated with us."
That's right.
And they all just crack up.
Yeah,
it's such a cool little scene that, like, it's not entirely dependent on Whoopi Goldberg for the comedy, which I
Right.
appreciated a lot of. There's a lot of like solid little jokes here and there that are not in scenes with her. She definitely ad-libs half of her lines,
Yes.
and there's a couple of ADR jokes in there too, which I kind of appreciate as well.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to the first one I noticed in Jamaica when
Okay.
they meet each other. There is definitely an ADR line in there, and it's just like, okay, that's pretty funny.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I think the next thing that happens is they land in Jamaica. They meet each other. Stella and Delilah meet in the hotel, and they're
uh-huh.
getting ready to enter their slut phase, as they call it, which is
Yep.
really great. Um,
As so so let's talk about that. Like, number one, this is a very, very predominantly black movie, and I love it
mhm.
for it because every actor is black, and it feels like all the primary actors are black, and it feels like they all know exactly where their characters come from because they probably all came from similar situations too.
Mhm.
And the banter is so real,
It's
like it
really
feels
good.
like genuine and honest the whole entire time.
Yep.
Um, and this is the ADR line I was talking about when they're talking about what the plans are for Jamaica, and they go into like the outside area, and Whoopi Goldberg starts talking about the two former football players who've got three
Right.
Super Bowl rings between them.
Yep.
Um, which is, when was your last wide receiver? Is it a fantastic line that is?
It's one of my favorite lines.
It's so ridiculously delivered. It's just
Yep.
okay, fine. You know that
Hmm.
that that's a great joke, and in a very appropriate joke as they're laughing and joking and walking down the stairs, the 80-yard line that gets added in is Whoopi Goldberg saying, "Let's be quiet now. We don't want to scare the white folk," which is 100% accurate.
Oh, I think I might have missed that. That's great. Oh
It's
man.
it's so good, and it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, guess what? The majority of white people complain when other people are loud,
Yep.
but guess what? Deal with it. Everybody's on vacation.
Yeah, man. When Whoopi's in the top of her game, she's so good.
So
Oh
good.
man. And I like that. The rest of it is kind of, and we've had some scenes here of like Stella running. She's very clearly like working out pretty regularly. Her arms are like carved from wood in this movie, just incredible.
Uh-huh.
Um, and
Like, she is the prototypical strong woman who would get nothing but crap from
mhm,
everybody. Even to this day,
right,
would get nothing but crap from everybody about
right.
the situation they're in. She makes, I'm assuming, lots of money with her job.
Well, I mean, late in the movie,
You see the
what
house.
what's his face invites her back to her job, and he's like, "We can pay you $275,000," and I was just like, "In 1998,
Huh?
you can own New York, Jesus."
Uh-huh.
So
That's
she's doing
kind of,
great.
yeah, she's doing really well.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess she's got that. She seems to have her stuff on lockdown. She's doing a pretty solid job with her son. Her saying goodbye to her son as well at the airport as he goes off to spend time with his dad
That's
for
a
two
great scene.
weeks. It's a really good scene, and especially her saying things to him like, look, don't talk about his weight.
That's right.
Don't mention this. And
That's
the
right.
kid's like, look, he doesn't understand calories. And
Yeah,
it's
he
like,
doesn't
we
read the
get it. Just
labels.
don't mention it. You're
Hmm.
with him for 2 weeks. Don't talk about how fat he's gotten, essentially.
Right.
It's a good relationship dynamic, like immediately between her and her kid and her whole situation. Like, that development is great.
Well, and I like that he has a conversation with her too about like, hey, I need you to relax, and she's like, oh yeah, don't worry. And he's like, no, like for real, you just,
Have some fun.
I need you to take a vacation, have some fun. I thought that was pretty good as framing him as kind of this little bit older than he is 11-year-old that kind of crops up throughout the rest of the movie.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think it happens here before Stella meets Winston that she tries to have her and Delilah go for a morning jog, and
Yes.
Delilah makes it like 3 steps and is like, whew, all right,
Yeah,
that was
doing
great.
the stretches. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm running," and she's just wobbling backwards and forwards on her heels, essentially.
It's really good. It's really great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then
it's a great scene, and it's a great excuse to separate the two of them for Stella to then go and have breakfast by herself, essentially.
Right, which is when she catches the eye of Winston Shakespeare, Taye Diggs, introducing Taye Diggs, and his Jamaican accent, which is a thing.
Spotty, we'll say.
It's fine usually.
There's a couple of moments where I'm like, feels like you're leaning into it a little bit there, but okay.
Yeah, could use a little bit of ADR work. Yeah.
Can we just also throw Taye Diggs up on that hottest man alive list, please?
Oof. This introducing Taye Diggs for sure, man.
Because I know we've got Timothy Olyphant, we've got Idris Elba up there, Henry Cavill's up there.
Naturally,
I think Taye Diggs deserves a space up there because my God, that man is
top 4 in the pantheon here. Yeah,
he has to be up there because he's. I mean, even today, like you see him in Equilibrium, which was after this, and a whole bunch of other movies. Like the dude is ridiculously good looking.
Yep, he's great. But yeah, they have. I feel like they have a pretty good kind of meet cute here of him just being head over heels with her immediately, and her sort of being like, God, he has to be young. Well, yeah. But like her initial reaction is just like, he's young.
This is the part that is strange to me. Like, the age difference is whatever. It was, number one, it was a different time, and these days, correctly so, they would probably be roasted over a fire for the age difference, especially you flip their genders, and this is definitely a problematic thing.
Sure.
I'm pointing at Leonardo DiCaprio right now. As a prime example of this.
Serial 25-year-old dater, yes.
I think the thing that this movie does that threw me a little bit for the loop was when all of a sudden it starts narrating in her head. I was like, it only happens for this scene. Like, it doesn't happen in any other scene. It's only here. It's like,
I originally thought it was her just kind of muttering under her breath, which she does a couple of times. But there is a couple of scenes, especially where she's like eyeing him up, where she's narrating, and I'm like, that's interesting. I think it works out pretty well, but it's kind of surprising.
Definitely a choice. Also, I want to know how much Jamaica paid towards making this movie, because there is an awful lot of shots of look how pretty Jamaica is in this movie.
Yeah, don't forget, you can stay here at this very location. Yeah. I feel like this scene goes pretty well, especially with her sort of being like, yeah, you find me hot? Like, I'm like, I have to be way older than you. And he's like, yeah, I'm almost 20. And she's like, oh, God.
He's almost 21. Thank you.
Thank you. Almost 21. And she's just like, oh, God. Oh, boy, he's hot. But wait, nope. Don't, hands off. He's 20. He's half your age. Oh, he's hot.
Yeah, we get the joke about the names here, where it's like, no, I'm giving you one because yours is clearly a fake name.
Yep.
And I do like the fact that they ask each other their age. Like, they just flat out say it. And he's like, well, I'm almost 21, so that would make me 20. And she's like, well, I'm 40. And he's like, no, come on, seriously. How old are you? And she's like, no, I'm being serious.
I am not lying about my age here. And they kind of keep running into each other, and then he invites her to a disco pajama party, which is kind of a funny thought, which turns into something pretty hilarious later. But I kind of like and dislike his intro line of like, you're late, when she shows up to the party, and she's like, I'm here right on time. And he's like, yeah, but I'm waiting for 45 minutes.
Yes.
It's kind of like, you're trying to drop a line here, and I don't think that's going to work on Stella. She's a little too cool for your pickup lines. But I like that they kind of hit it off. They're having a fun time dancing. He kind of pulls her in with his dancing in the middle of nowhere dance moves. And they have fun.
He's got some moves. Like, what
Yeah.
can I say?
Yeah, who can resist Tay Diggs? They're kind of having fun. She meets up with Delilah, makes it to the party too with the two ex-football players, and she's genuinely having a great time until the disco party turns into like a everybody let's strip party. And
yeah, it turns into now it's time for the orgy scene, essentially.
Right, which is Stella's reaction is immediately very much like, oh God, no. I am not here for this at all, which is really great. And I like that Winston is immediately like, let's go. Peace.
Delilah's like half out, half in as well, which tickles me. Like,
yeah,
she's
Delilah's
like,
sort of like, let's see where this goes. All right.
Yeah. And then we get the dance scene, we'll say.
Right, with one of the football players enjoying the new rules of the party. Yeah. I kind of like the rest of their kind of brief romance here before Winston gets hired on as a chef's assistant. As they like talk about dreams, and they talk about their family history, and they talk about everything. They're sleeping together pretty constantly, which is nice to see. Stella just being like, hey man, I'm going to see this guy for like a week. Let's just let's have the fun that I was looking for.
Well, he's immediately like, look, my time just immediately shrank. Like, like someone was fired, and then now I have to work ridiculous hours.
Right.
And she starts feeling like she's been played, and rightly or wrongly, she's kind of right.
Yeah, and I like her immediate reaction of just like, well, then we're done. Like, if you're going to lie to me that you just got hired and you have to work these couple of days, oh, somebody got fired. Of course they did. And she's just like, I like this immediate kind of defensive nature of like, well, I'm just going to get lied to again. So, like, we're done. You're going to sell me some story, then whatever, man. It doesn't even matter. Which I appreciate, because it certainly does sound like a line of, you know, he's done with her, so, you know, oh, I got hired. Oh, yeah, I got to work real hard. LOL. And it's interesting that they kind of make up before she leaves, because he's just like, no, I still really want to see you. Like, I'm not selling you a bill of goods here. Like, let's meet back up. I think it's really funny. She returns to California and immediately
gets fired,
laid off, which is like, and I like that he is, and I really wish I could find this actor's name that is her boss, because he's so famous, and it's like really killing me that I can't.
Well, dude, just look for Legends of Tomorrow, because he is the guy from Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
he's the old professor dude.
He's also in Bob's Burgers. Like, he's in everything, and it's really driving me crazy that I can't find his name.
Who is he in Bob's Burgers?
He's Mr. Fishoder, if I remember correctly.
Really?
Victor
Garber, by the way.
I don't think that's him. Is
that? Oh, that's the partner. That's the partner, at least.
Right. But I like that he is saying like, oh, you know, like, oh, we're merging and redundancies and yada yada. Anyways, like, you know, one of theirs, one of ours. Ha ha ha. Anyways, we're letting you go. Bye. Which is pretty
accurate.
Pretty accurate, and also I like that she doesn't really take it laying down. She's very much like, how many millions of dollars? I just got you out of hot water in the intro of this movie before I left. Like, what are you doing?
So you're talking about Kevin Kline, is who you're talking about.
Thank you, Kevin Kline. Yes. He's as soon as I saw him, and I was like, oh man, Kevin Kline.
I recognize the Legends of Tomorrow guy immediately.
Yeah,
who's
you're going to be up to something else.
He's
here.
The partner.
Yeah. Yep. So she gets back, and then she gets let go, and kind of doesn't really wallow in it for too long.
No, that's because she's about to sue them for everything.
Right, she's like figuring out her options, and then Winston contacts her and says like, "Hey man, good timing. Why don't you come back to Jamaica? Like, bring your kid, bring some stuff, bring some Cocoa Puffs, please,
And Snickers,
and
please.
Snickers, yeah, and some other stuff." And she decides to go back to Jamaica, and they have a pretty good time until Winston decides to spring upon her. Hey, we're going to this place. Whoops, we're meeting my parents. And it
doesn't look much like a restaurant. That's because it's my parents' place.
Yeah, and it goes about as well as Stella was expecting, which is the mom especially being like, "Hey, we're the same age, you creep. That's my baby." And I was just like, "Oh boy." I like that Stella tries to fire back and be like, "He's not a baby," and his mom's just like, "Yeah, but he's my baby." you gross pervert. It's just like, oh, jeez, okay. So I like that they genuinely do have a good fight about that, because Stella is she was kind of read the riot act and kind of ashamed at that. You know, the age difference is pretty big.
Well, she's been destroyed on this, like, by everybody. Like,
right.
This is the main conflict of the movie: is the age difference, the maturity difference in some sections. Like, we didn't talk about it, but when she first got back from Jamaica, she has the scene with her sisters who are been looking after her house and pets for her, and like, one of them, the youngest one, I'm assuming, is the one driving an ambulance.
Right. She's probably one of my favorite characters in this movie. She's great.
And like, she's being read the right act by all of them, and it's just like, I mean, we already know what happened because Delilah spilled the beans on the whole situation.
And I like that there's an element of like, hell yeah, man, good for you, but also like, what are you doing? But kind of good for you, but also like, maybe it should stop completely. So I think that's another part of it too. When she goes back to Jamaica, is sort of like, like, what am I doing here? And then gets the call from Delilah's oncologist with bad news, and Stella's like, the who now? Because we had a scene a little bit earlier with Delilah in the hospital saying like, I gotta go, people are waiting on me. And Stella goes back to help Delilah at the end of her life, essentially.
Which, by the way, can we talk about the turns this movie makes? Because it goes from like a sexy comedy to a little bit of a comedy drama to like just a heartbreaking movie in this section. Like, this is just like soul destroying.
For like a good half an hour, it's just like, oh man, she is way sicker than she was leading on to. Oh, it's a funeral scene. Oh no. Oh, gosh. Okay. Cool.
Like, make sure you realize that I'm mad at you because you did the one thing you haven't done for 20 years is keep a secret is one of my favorite lines.
That's a really good line. It's really good. Stella is in New York for the funeral and sort of saying goodbye. Winston comes to New York for the funeral and to meet Stella, and then the two of them go back to California together. And they're having this kind of a little bit of like a honeymoon period. Stella and Winston are getting along really well. Winston and Stella's kid are getting along super well. I don't even remember what the kid's name is. Sorry, I just punched my mic. Quincy.
Eric?
Quincy. So they're getting along pretty well together. Winston teaches Quincy how to drive out of like the driveway. He's like 11 or 12. It's real bad.
Because he keeps making driving jokes. Because he's like, yeah, she stopped using the furniture room around about the time I started to drive.
That's right.
My go-kart.
Yeah, there's also that like B plot of Stella used to make furniture in the garage. It's like her real passion, and she just got too busy at work. And then Stella brings Winston to like a family party. I don't even remember what this is for. If they said
It's when they're coming back from New York, I believe, and when they're dropping off the niece, who is the youngest sister's eldest daughter, I
right,
believe,
right,
and they're just dropping her off, and then they're going to go back home,
mm-hmm.
and that's when like Winston's like, "Wait, is that smoke?" And
Right,
it's like, "Well, that's clearly barbecue smoke, which
right,
means that everybody is here."
yeah,
This is probably my favorite sequence in the movie
yeah,
because
and it
it's
sets
a
up a lot for later too.
yeah, because it's a family montage with all of the pros and cons that happen in that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Like it's a showing of the events of the barbecue, but it starts with Vanessa coming out to the car and basically being like, I know you're in there. Like I want to see him. Let me see him."
That's right. Everyone wants to see him. Get out. Um,
Hmm.
I think the meeting, everyone meeting Stella's ex, is really interesting because he turns out to not really be who who Stella says he is, which is not
Yeah.
super surprising. Um, and I was expecting the Winston and Stella's ex conversation to go way worse than it did.
That was a nice moment. That was a genuinely nice moment between the two of them.
Yeah, especially with
Where he's
him
like,
being like, she wants to be right, and like, don't tell her, but she almost always is.
But she needs a man who's going to stand up for himself. And he literally says to him, "Well, how did that work out for you?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Not well." And then
Yeah,
they have a little laugh and joke about it. I do like the fact that Stella turns around and yells at them, and is like, "Hey, break that mess up!" Like,
that's right. That's right. I don't want you two talking. Come on.
mm-hmm.
Um, they have a pretty good party, I think, overall. There's a little bit of the sister that is kind of hoity-toity and married to the rich guy. The
Mm-hmm.
two of them are very clearly looking down their nose the entire time at
And
Winston.
everybody.
At everybody, yeah, but especially like it seems like the easy target is Winston. Especially when he's just like, Stella, let us know when you're ready to start running. And Winston's just like, yeah, man, running. That sounds great. Everyone can run. And he's just like, man, you don't even know what we're talking about, bro. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're not talking about that sort of running, Mr. Shakespeare. Um, and it's interesting because this is where the Winston and Stella fight, and this is where the move I start to struggle with the movie overall for kind of the rest of the runtime, because
Yes, it hits this point and it becomes the age different fight, the age difference / maturity difference fight for
right,
about an hour. It felt like.
yeah, and it's weird because it's distilled into the pendulum swinging from Winston is upset that he feels that Stella is consistently on him about taking out the trash and not eating junk food and stop playing with the kid and get off the video games, and this laundry list of like 20-year-old grievances.
Uh-huh.
And he feels like Stella is kind of shaming him for his age. There's a really great line where they're at the dinner where she looks incredible, by the way.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, look, I can't help that I am 20 as much as you can't help that you're 40. Like, that's the reality of our situation. And either that needs to be okay or it doesn't need to be. And then she sort of has this issue. They go to a comedy and like everybody in the theater is laughing, and she's like, what are you guys talking? Like, what are we watching? This is not at
Uh-huh.
all. And they meet the hoity-toity couple too, and they had seen
And the
some.
judge.
and the judge, that's right. And they had clearly seen some like very sad, probably French movie with subtitles. She's like, "Yeah, we saw this movie. Oh, it's so fun. Oh, it's so funny. Oh, it's just the best. Genuine laughter. Ha ha ha." And the tensions continue to rise the entire time with both of these, and then Winston proposes to Stella.
After he's redone the furniture room.
Right. Which is, number one, that room / garage or whatever is massive. Monstrous. Her house is huge. My God. And she doesn't say no, but doesn't say yes. And it's essentially sort of like, there's a lot here that I kind of need to think about, so you gotta give me a little bit of time. And he is understandably a little bit frustrated because I think he's more head over heels than she is at the moment. And tensions continue to rise as she delays her answer and kind of has a big blow up outside of the kind of
the school for the parent-teacher day.
Yeah, parent-teacher day, and she's also very clearly like potentially ramping up to do some sort of local office or something. And there's kind of an explosive fight in the parking lot where he's yelling at the kid and he's yelling at her and saying like, "You need to make your mind up. It's been a week. How can you not answer me in a week?" And stuff like that. And the fight doesn't really resolve until it's like the next day or a couple days later, where the firm calls Stella back and it's like, "Hey man, the last couple quarters, I think we've realized how valuable you are as a partner and as an asset for the company. So can you come back maybe for like a lot of money?" And she tells them to shove it, which is not super surprising, but pretty admirable. I feel like if someone, even in 2023, was like, "Hey, $275,000, I'd be like, "I will bark like a dog for 10 hours a day for almost $300,000.
Yeah.
Everyone has a price, and boy, that's way above my price.
Speaking of which, patreon.com/E1M1.
Thank you very much. The ones are numbers. Tell your rich friends. So she tells him he's not super surprised, and he's just like, "Hey man, like you can go back to making furniture and selling it." She's like, "I've never talked about selling it." And they sleep together in a scene that I thought was actually pretty interesting because it
feels like a last hurrah.
Yeah, and especially the look on his face of like, "Yeah, man, like I have just made my decision, and it's not the one that she's gonna want to hear." So they
but at the same time, it also looks like she's made her decision.
Right, like it's very much the two of them are like, this might be our last kind of moment together. And I like that they have a conversation in the hammock. Probably the next day, and he's just like, "I'm leaving tonight. Like I'm going back to Jamaica. I got a cooking job. This is still my passion. This is still really what I want to do, and I don't think you and I can make it. And I don't think that the two of us are going to work out." And I kind of like her reaction of like, "Yeah, you're probably right."
So I'm guessing that we're both probably agreed on the fact that this should not end with a quote-unquote happy ending.
I thought this was where the movie was going to end. Like, he was going to go right off into the sunset back to Jamaica, and she'd kind of figure out how to be happy with her life, like running for local office and making furniture. Like the two of them embracing their dreams, which didn't really include each other in them, and kind of this kind of bittersweet ending of we have found the things that made us happy. We just weren't happy together.
Or they were. There's just that their goals don't align to allow them to be happy together.
Right. And it doesn't end like that. It ends with him going to the airport and Stella is there accepting his marriage proposal.
And suggesting Stanford as the medical school that he goes to.
I think that's a really weird ending, man. I'm not going to say it sours the whole movie for me, but I think once Winston moves to the U.S. and moves in with Stella, I feel like the rest of the movie is on this kind of downslope as they fight, and there's so much tension and there's so much static about the fight that they're having throughout the entire movie. And then for her to agree to get married and then that's the credits was just kind of like, okay. That's not where I was expecting this movie to go. Okay. That's the ending.
Yep.
Sure.
So apparently this is based on the writer of this movie. It's kind of a autobiographical script. Let's say that marriage did not end well. He turns out he did 20-something that she married, which, not kidding, literally same age difference.
Right.
Turned out to be gay. And was using her as an American Expressway card, we'll say.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the ending here is just like, come on, like, please, like, no.
Yeah.
Like, this is how she got her groove back, was by meeting him and embracing things. Like, I think it would have been a really good thing to see her, like, because I think she was also talking potentially about opening her own company. And like trying to call all of her previous clients so she could get all of them. And it's like, just show her starting her own company. Show her then going to the garage and like spending like 10 minutes a day or whatever doing furniture stuff. Like,
right. Like recapturing her dream.
Yeah, show that. That would be great, I think.
And I know what people are going to say is like, well, that's not the genre, and it's not, and I respect that.
You say it's not, but there's also a rom-com about zombies, so we can't say that's not the genre.
Yeah, it's not your typical kind of genre ending, and I think that would be, I think that would leave the movie off in a stronger spot. But I can see why the ending of the movie was like this, but this movie starts out so strong and hits so strong in the middle of it, and kind of just the ending happens so suddenly, especially like that last half hour, and it feels like a lot of times it's just kind of not earned. I liked the movie a lot overall. I think the first half of the movie really, especially the chemistry between almost all of the actors, chemistry between Angela Bassett and Taye Diggs isn't always as great as I wanted it to be.
Yes, there's a couple of moments here and there where it's a little off, but
I wanted him to be like irresistibly charismatic, because and I didn't really get that a lot of the time. He was sweet and he was good natured and it is a good person, which I think is great for the role. But I think I wanted that like swarthy kind of like irresistible guy, like, oh, it's that smile, like I'm putting his hands, he smile again, that sort of thing. But yeah, I liked it a lot in the end. Cause I think the chemistry, especially when her whole family is together, I think that's some of the best stuff in the movie, especially like in the
the sister relationship is fantastic between all three of them.
Her and Whoopi's relationship is great. You can tell the two of them are just having the time of their life in Jamaica and making a movie. That stuff is continually great. I think it kind of, the movie gets worse as it goes on, which is kind of not what you usually get in a romantic comedy. Usually it's like, oh, we're going to have the fight, we're going to get back together, and we're going to have the happy ending. And that happens, but it feels kind of unearned in the
I
end.
think it could have done without the traditional happy ending. I still think it's a happy ending if they both go their separate ways. Like,
Yeah, bittersweet can
maybe,
still be happy.
yeah, like maybe he goes to med school, maybe he gets his doctorate, and then maybe, and it's more of a trope used these days, but maybe you flash forward to like 15 years down the future, and like he's a doctor, like finishing his
Right.
shift, and she's bringing her kid into the ER for like a broken arm or something, and they
Sure.
catch eyes and
Yep.
smile at each other. That's a good ending. That
Yep.
suggests the potential for something without flat out saying this is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Like I think that is a really solid ending, like a really solid like little flash forward moment where, yeah, okay, you get a slightly older kid to like an older
Sure.
version of the kid to play the thing, but maybe give her a little bit of like gray dusting in the hair or whatever. But I think it's a sadder ending because they end up together.
Right. Right. Because they still haven't resolved their issues, and like,
Mm-hmm.
will they ever with the age gap? I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure. Yeah. Sorry about ratings here. Rotten Tomatoes. There's only 50 ratings here because this came out in '98. So it's
Mm-hmm.
50%, which feels pretty low. But again, 50 reviews. That's
So
pretty
25 positive, 25 negative for those who
right.
don't know the Rotten Tomatoes thing.
Yeah, and that's usually on Rotten Tomatoes nowadays. You get like hundreds and hundreds of reviews. So, audience score of 66%, which is
Okay.
a little bit lower than I was thinking I was expecting. IMDb 8,000 reviewers, 5.7 out of 10, and
That feels a little low.
Letterboxd at 2.9. How many people rated that? I don't know if I can see that here. I think I'm a little surprised at how low some of those are. I don't think I would go. I think I'd be like at maybe like 3.5, 3, that
Is
kind of range.
this the thing that we come across a lot in video games?
Mm,
TVGP.tv, where we've talked about this several times over the years, but it's one of those things where a great ending can make a mediocre game great.
sure.
A terrible ending can make a fantastic game terrible.
Yeah,
Like
it just sours the whole thing.
like at the end of the day, it all comes down to that last 20 minutes,
Right.
and I'm curious, number one, how much of this is the ending souring people, like it feels like it did for us. Like, but
Yep.
we have the wherewithal to look at the movie as a whole because we discuss it as a whole. We don't
Right.
immediately jump online and then type in a number into a field.
Right.
How much of it is also I got introduced to this? I've heard this is a legendary movie, but it's all black people kind of crap.
Right. Exactly.
Because the internet is full of racist people.
Right. Horrible anonymous racists. Yeah. So
Yes. I
interesting.
I mean for me this is like a 6.57 kind of movie.
Yeah.
Like where it's just the last little bit. Like
Yep.
have them go their separate ways. The movie is not how Stella got her groove back and then kept it because she stayed with the young kid. It's how she got her groove back as a whole. So
Right.
that's what I mean when I say like a suggestive ending is better than the definite one because this is how she got back into her flow. This is how she got her dreams back. This is how and then maybe he went to medical school and he's a doctor, but now he's also doing his dream stuff on the side. Like maybe he owns a restaurant
He's
because
a
he loves to
Michelin star
cook.
chef now. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Like a suggestive ending, I think it would be better, but like yeah, this is a 6.5, 7 movie for me, easy.
Yeah. I'm right there too. It's really good, but
Mm-hmm.
has some issues. All right, before we get into next season, let's do the thing that I love the most, which is ranking. We'll rank our 5 films here.
Are we starting
Moon.
from the bottom now? We're here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Moon, what is your number 5? Ours is probably the same.
Well, I was going to say there is no discussions or arguments to be had on this one. It's a lot like Love.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
going to troll you and say When Harry Met Sally, but
That's
I
right. That's
wasn't.
right. That'd be pretty unbelievable. I feel like if you don't know why that one's at number 5 with a bullet, go listen to that episode and take the ride with us, I guess. Yikes. Also mine is. That's mine. Number 4. What's yours?
Enough said.
Okay.
My number 3 and 4 are interchangeable. To be honest, because
Mine too.
they both feel about right. They both feel about the same kind of enjoyment level for me. Watching them was about the same.
Right.
Enough said is probably slightly under it because it is a slow movie. Like don't get me wrong, it doesn't drag. It's not Lord of the Rings slow where it's 3 that feels like 6. It's not none of that kind of stuff. It's just I think that my next one beats it ever so slightly because it has that extra flair to it, kind of thing.
Yeah, my number 4 is How Stella Got Her Groove Back, but it's also interchangeable with my number 3, because I think, like we just talked about, Stella is really great, but it kind of peters off as the movie goes on. I liked all 4 of these movies. I was going to say all 5, but that's not true. I liked the top 4 movies of this season kind of all together. And Stella certainly isn't a bad movie, but I think it and number 3 are kind of in the same slot here for me.
Yes.
What's your number 3?
My number 3 is How Stella Got Her Groove Back.
Okay. My number 3 is Enough Said. Yeah. I like Enough Said a lot because I feel like out of all of these movies, it feels the most grounded, I think. Like it's a very human film. It's a very flawed, it's a look at a bunch of flawed people. And I feel like they kind of earn their relationship at the end, and it's still kind of on shaky ground, much like Stella at the end. But I think they've kind of come to terms with their relationship at the end, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
What's your number 2?
Oh boy,
these 2 are tough.
When Harry Met Sally.
Ditto.
It's a classic for a reason. Arguably, it is definitely a classic for a reason.
Yeah,
it is genuinely fantastic, genuinely hilarious at moments, but also super real at other moments. Like it's a really solid movie with an impressive cast who deliver on all of the performances. Like it's great all the way through, like up and down. It is genuinely a heartwarming, lovely movie. It is. I would argue it is more romance than comedy.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I'm fine with. Like I love that I love it as a whole. There's a reason why it is highly regarded as it is.
Probably one of the best portrayals of a relationship maturing and evolving over the years that a lot like Love tried to do and failed. And When Harry Met Sally, it's from like enemies to friends to lovers, like that full kind of gamut of their experience in a way that felt really natural and felt really great. Like you said, it's a classic for a reason, and it's one of those times you watch a classic and you're like, "Yep, I get it. Now I see it. It's great."
Yeah. It's fantastic. But yeah, number 1 is Long Shot. It is so good. It is
shockingly
so
good.
ridiculously good. Like it is like it's obviously not as grounded as something like Enough Said. Obviously Secretary of State, that kind of thing, but the things it deals with and the ways it deals with it is super real, even in like 2023. Like someone has a sex tape online and they're threatening to release it. It's like, that's very 2023.
It has the line of like Seth Rogen saying like, "Oh, is that because you're a woman?" and her being like, "Yeah, MFer," and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's on me." Like, just, my number 1 and my number 5 were kind of set in stone originally.
Yeah.
I'm glad the 2 of us both agreed on Long Shot because I thought that was a wild swing, but
it's so good.
It's like, really great.
It's
against
charming.
all odds.
I think we talked about it in the episode. The chemistry between the 2 of them is unreal from the get-go as well. Like they genuinely have this fantastic chemistry with each other the entire time.
Yeah, and it's believable. Like, and it addresses, like, look at her, look at him. How is this going to work? Like, it addresses that kind of very plainly in a way that I think helps the movie a lot.
100%. It's just quality from top to bottom, and one might argue, based on the fact that nobody seems to have seen it, it is probably the most underappreciated movie in this list.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
I've never had people talking about it. Like, the only thing I remember from it was the trailers that I saw when it came out. I was like, oh, I should check that out, and then life gets busy.
Yeah, the only thing I knew about that movie, and I think we talked about it in the episode, was just like everyone being like, "Hey, you like romantic comedies? Just go watch this one. Don't worry about what it's about. Just go watch it. It's actually really good." And they were right. It's actually really great.
It's heartwarming in all the right places. The conflict is real, especially in a modern day sense of being a real conflict. And the making up is pretty solid too. Like, overall, it definitely has the best meat to bun to condiment ratio. Like, it is just
the rom-com sandwich was the best.
It's such a quality piece of, like, movie making all the way around.
Yeah. All right, well, that is our romantic comedies season. If you are we did mention Patreon earlier, over at patreon.com/E1M1.
Ones equals digits.
If you're at the $5 or higher tier, don't forget the weeks in between this season and next season. We have a brand new season 20 production meeting. So if you want to hear how we decided to maybe take another stab at a sort of fan favorite genre, you can figure that out. And if you haven't listened to those before, I really like those episodes. They turn out really well every time. It's usually like an hour of us kind of planning the show and talking about the show. If you really want a kind of
for the record, though, it's not just like a production meeting. We're also having a laugh and a joke, and
it's like, unscripted. Like, we're having a meeting. We're having fun. We're going through Wikipedia and Letterboxd pages. Like, it is us just kind of hanging out and talking about the show and having fun and talking about random stuff. Like, it really is. It's not this like stuffy like on cell 15 of the third sheet on Excel. Like, it's not any of the quarterly reports. It's nothing like that. Those episodes turn out really great. If you're a patron, highly recommend listening to them. If not, it's just one of the great benefits you can get at the $5 or higher tier over on Patreon. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.